Well, 6 years ago, I was stuck in a extremely abusive relationship with a man who had a lot of narcissistic traits, and I was so desperate that I remember many times where I was just on the floor crying, sobbing my eyes out, being so desperate and asking myself over and over again, why is this happening to me? What is happening? Because back then the term narcissist was not a thing. I had no idea about what a narcissist was, so I had no idea what was happening to me. And fast forward, now I am in a beautiful, super loving relationship with a man for 3 years who has helped me through a lot of darkness, who has helped me through a lot of healing, where we healed each other in different ways and where we held space for each other, and where my nervous system could learn what it means to experience healthy love. And I attracted this man because I trained my nervous system beforehand what it meant to experience healthy love for or from myself. But first, hi, my name is Yula. I am a shadow worker, I'm a womb worker, I am an intuitive singer, and I make videos about shadow work and healing and how to heal from these things. And I help women on their path of becoming their most empowered selves. So, one of the main things that has helped me on this journey was taking a deep look at my father wound. And let me say, the cause for these kind of relationship patterns are a combination of other things as well. So for me, there was also a mother wound that played into it. There were self-worth issues that played into it. There was not enoughness that played into it. There was a bunch of stuff. However, my father wound was by far the biggest thing that helped me getting into a healthy relationship with myself, with my father, actually in real life right now, and in relationships, romantic relationships. So if you're hearing father wound and it resonates with you and you're like, yep, I definitely have some daddy issues that are still in here, then I invite you to comment free guide down below, and I will send you a complete guide for free, where I will guide you through a practice, where I will guide you through a meditation practice, an embodiment practice, a release practice to go into your father wound. And also there are journal prompts in there that help you to investigate a bit more on the relationship you have to your dad, and that can already help you resolve some things around that topic. So if you're interested in that, comment free guide below and you will receive the link. And romantic relationships especially are something that I encounter over and over and over again, be it from my girlfriends, from my friendships, be it from the women that I work with. Pretty much every woman is struggling with relationships. Every woman that I know is struggling with relationships. And I'm actually the one many women come to because they see that I am in a healthy relationship and they're like, how the heck did you do this? So let me be a reminder that healing is possible. I am the living example that it is possible. I suffered from depression. I suffered from bulimia. I suffered from abusive relationships and a bunch of other stuff. And healing is possible. We can take matters into our own hands and we can look at our shadows. We can look at our wounds. We can heal them. And once we do that, things fall into place. It's not that we have to actively do anything. It's like when I struggled with bulimia, it was only because I was working with the root cause for bulimia that it just went away. It just naturally disappeared in my life. And so this is the same thing. Like, yeah, you can try to put a band-aid over all your symptoms that you have that make you unhappy and all these patterns in your relationships that come up over and over and over again. But until we address the root cause for why that is happening and why we are attracting these kind of men, why we are acting out these kind of relationship patterns, until then, we will be stuck in the same loop. And I was stuck in the same loop for a long time. So let me tell you a little bit more about my story. So as I said, 6 years ago, I ended the relationship in 2019 and I started it, I think it was 2017. So it was 2 years of extreme on-off. The relationship began like every relationship with a person with narcissistic traits. There was a lot of love bombing. There was a lot of like, oh my God, and just these like huge emotions and all that kind of stuff. And the further I got into it, the more I realized there are definitely some very unhealthy things happening here, and I cannot leave this guy. And I tried. I tried many times. This relationship was on and off almost every 2 weeks. Not even every 2 weeks. That's the funny part. It was mostly like 5 days, maybe 6 days, sometimes maybe a week, but more often than not, it was literally a few days. Like the fact that I was just doing that to myself speaks volumes about the relationship that I had to myself. And in this relationship, there was a lot of gaslighting, extreme amounts of gaslighting, actually, to the point where I literally thought I would go insane. And this feeling, because it sounds like, oh, yeah, whatever, but like the feeling of not trusting yourself to the point that you're literally thinking you're going insane is a feeling that I cannot even describe. It is just such a deep feeling of desperation, of like, oh my God, like, am I that wrong? Am I just so unable to see reality? Because he makes you question your reality. Like, that's one of the biggest signs. Like, signs for narcissistic abuse are gaslighting, meaning you are questioning your own reality, you're not trusting your own reality. There is the love bombing in the beginning, where they just bombard you with love, and say like, oh my God, you're the best woman that ever happened to me, and you're the most beautiful woman. And then on the other side, give you backhanded comments of how unperfect you are or imperfect you are, which there was a lot. Extreme jealousy is also another sign. Like, they're usually very, 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 very jealous. And actually that in turn made me very, very jealous. Because also in the times where we were broken off, he would go out and seek other girls. And he told me many times, like I think maybe 3 times, that when we were broken off, that for like literally a week, he had gone to sleep with another woman. And I still went back to him. Yeah, I still went back to him. Again, it's like looking back at myself from back then, it's like, holy shit, like the transformation I've gone through in the last 6 years is mind-blowing to me. I literally thought I can never be happy. Happiness is just not something that's for me, that's meant for me. I'm just meant to be like this, depressed, bulimic, and in unhealthy relationships for the rest of my life. And luckily I was very wrong. And I know that I could have been stuck much longer in this relationship, so I'm happy it was only 2 years. But there are literally people who are stuck in marriages, for decades, and they cannot leave. And so I'm very happy that I was able to leave at some point. And after that, my healing journey started, because I realized once I finally broke free from him, I realized that there is something inside of me that is causing this. And before I was very much blaming it all on him. I was like, he's such a bad person, he's such a dick, he's such everything. And I just failed to realize that that was on me. Like, it was on me, and I'm not blaming myself in that sense, but just taking responsibility for my own wounds and realizing that the wounds that I carry within myself mirror my external reality. And if I have these wounds and they're still active, I will attract these kind of men into my life over and over and over again, until I learn my lesson, until I start taking responsibility for myself and start healing. And so that's what I did. I remember I started traveling. I was in Australia for a long time, for 7 months, I think. And then I left my home country, Germany. I left for good. I deregistered and everything, and I went to Mexico. Started my life as a digital nomad and all these beautiful things. Had an amazing time. And then I went to Costa Rica for a month. And that's when it really started. Like, that's when the deep, deep, deep shadow work really started. And I remember I was in Costa Rica by myself. I was in the mountains. It was amazing. Costa Rica is one of my favorite countries. And yeah, I was there. I was in my room, and I started to meditate a lot. And when I mean meditate, I don't mean that I was just, emptying your mind, this kind of mindfulness meditation. No, I started to go into my shit. And I didn't actually have to do much, because all these wounds were like so there that they came bubbling up. And I remember one of the first really intense shadow work sessions was when my dad came into my consciousness. And memories flooded my brain and my body of my father beating me, of my father turning away from me, not being interested in me. There were so many memories that many of them I actually had suppressed for such a long time that I didn't even know they were there. And this session brought up so much in me that it helped me to start heal. And the way I did it was that over the course of many years, several years, and to this day, like I wouldn't say that the father wound is active for me anymore. Like it really isn't. I have done so much work around it. And I see it in the relationship to my father now. Like I have a really beautiful relationship with him. He's amazing. He really loves me. He shows his love. He's super interested in what I have to say. He even asks me for advice sometimes because he sees the growth that I've done, and he's really interested in that, and he's really interested in personal development, and he's also in his very own way very spiritual and connected. And so I am very grateful for that. Like I know that's not a given. I know many people who have to heal these kind of wounds while still seeing their fathers in this moment and seeing how unaware they are, how unconscious they are, how they are still acting out all their trauma. And I feel very blessed that my dad actually did also his own inner work and is not the person that raised me. Because again, in my childhood, he would get extremely angry very fast. So I learned very quickly that I had to walk on eggshells. He was zero interested in me. He didn't know my age many times. Like he didn't know my age. Often he didn't know my birthday. He didn't know what grade in school I was in. He didn't know how I did in school. And he never asked. Like he was just not interested in my life. And on top of that, again, a lot of anger issues. He would beat me a lot. And so physical abuse was definitely there. And what that does to a child is you feel extremely unsafe. Like these things that happen to you in childhood, they are ingrained into your body, into your nervous system. And they stay there because back then, as a child, obviously you don't have the tools, you don't have the knowledge to work through any of this. So you don't know what to do with all of these emotions. So instead of working through it because you don't know how, this gets stuck in your body and you develop coping mechanisms. For me, it was emotional eating, was a lot, depression, even back then already. There was a lot of deep sadness that I experienced, and I numbed it out with food, even as a child already. I started, I think when I was around 7 or 8, that's when I started actually gaining quite a lot of weight because I would emotionally overeat so much. And I actually remember I had freaking cakes and stuff hidden in my closet and these kind of things. It's crazy. And with that came obviously a lot of shame. And that later in my adulthood, when I was around 18, would result into in a bulimia, which I also healed fully by myself just by doing shadow work and healing my trauma. And never went to therapy or anything with that. I all healed it really by myself, which I'm very proud of. I'm not gonna lie, because that is something very severe that is not easy to work through. And I did it, so I'm very, very proud of myself for doing that. So yeah, anyway, I, in my childhood, experienced a lot of trauma and developed a lot of coping mechanisms. Also, that's why I actually started developing a depression very early in life, which would be on off like through my whole life until I was like 25. I think that's when I really was like, okay, it's good. Which doesn't mean I don't experience sadness. Like obviously I do, but it's not a full-on depression anymore, where it's just weeks and weeks and weeks and months where you just feel hopeless and just sad and also numb. Like it's mostly numbness actually, like where you're just in bed and you don't care about anything anymore. Suicide attempts was also something that I dealt with, or not attempts I would say, but definitely a lot of thoughts about it. Oh my god, it is so cold. So back to childhood, I developed quite a lot of coping mechanisms because I didn't have the tools to work through the trauma that I experienced. And so if we don't do that, if we don't have the tools to work through trauma, it stays stuck in our nervous system, in our body. And until it is addressed, it will stay there. It will just stay there. And usually humans do a lot to suppress it as much as they can. And that's when also addiction comes in, because all of that pain that's still there, we try to numb it again with food, with drugs, with alcohol, with gambling, with shopping, with you call your drug, yeah? And so when I did the shadow work, that's all that came up. And obviously not in one session. Like, it took me many sessions to heal. And I did it really in a way where I was like, okay, I will sit down now. I will do shadow work. I feel something inside of me wants to come out. I laid down. I let it come up. I moved it through my body. I allowed myself to experience the memory, because that's what usually happens. Like, a memory comes up, a specific one. Because if you have like 10,000 memories coming up at once, you're overload, and your system is overloaded. And then you cannot really work through anything. You know, you can work with the overwhelm, yes, but it is, in my opinion, and there are many ways to do this, right? But in my opinion, it's good to go one memory at a time, kind of thing. And that's what I did. I did that for a long time, for several years. I was very, very, very committed to healing, because I felt the change that it brought me in myself. I felt the joy returning into my life, and I felt it in the connection with other people, in relationship to other people, be it friends, be it romantic relationships, all these kind of things. And I reprogrammed my nervous system again, because when you grow up as a child in such a chaotic, such an unpredictable environment, your nervous system is in fight or flight constantly. And so that is programmed into your body, into your nervous system. And so what we need to do later in life, if we want to heal, is we need to reprogram the safety in our bodies, because we don't know what safety feels like. So if you experienced all of that stuff, chances are also that you mistake stress in your nervous system for love, because when you were a child, you experienced all these things, but at the same time, as a child, you love your parents so much, right? Like, every child loves their parents so much. And so we connect the stress in our nervous system, what they do to us, with love. That is what love looks like. And that is what later fucks you up in your romantic relationships. And so again, if this is resonating with you and you're like, I do not want to continue these cycles anymore, then comment free guide down below. I will send you the link to the free guide where you will have a step-by-step roadmap on what to do, and start navigating your father wounds and start healing. Because it is life-changing. I cannot even explain the change that has happened in my life. It is real. That's why I'm sharing it, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it is just, oh my God. And I know so many people who are struggling with that for so long, and many don't know what to do, and they don't know how to heal, and they don't know about shadow work and all these things. And that's why I do this, because I want to bring awareness to it, and especially to women. Because that's just the work that I do. I'm a woman, so I know what it feels like to be a woman and growing up as a woman. So yeah, this has been such a big thing in my life, healing. And that's why I'm doing these videos, because I want to bring this healing and how to heal and how to be your own healer as well, because that is the thing. Like, there are no other healers healing you. Like, you are healing yourself. You are learning from someone who has walked the path, and you implement that in your own life, and you learn how to heal yourself, and you learn how to change your own life and to change the trajectory of your own life. And yeah, if you want to attract healthy love, comment free guide down below. I will send you the link. So back to the story, that's exactly what I did. I did a bunch of shadow work. I did a bunch of release of emotions so it could get out of my body, through crying, through screaming, through yelling, through anger release, through moving my body, through voice activation, through working with my womb, because lots of trauma is stored in our womb. That's a different story. And that is what I did. I was so committed for really like a long time, and I was like, all right, I need to change my life, because I cannot live like that anymore, and I'm gonna do it. And I did. And of course, there's many other things, right? Like, the father wound, I would say, is still like the biggest chunk. That was definitely life-changing. But there's also a lot about self-worth, what also plays into the father wound, because that's where that comes from, right? Like, we feel low self-worth because our parents didn't meet our needs, didn't give us the love that we needed. And also the mother wound is a big one, which was actually... it took me a bit longer, because I always thought, no, I had a great relationship to my mom, until I started digging a little bit and I realized, like, oh, okay, yeah, there were actually also quite a lot of things that ended up being almost more hurtful than my dad, because my dad was like very obviously abusive. And with my mom, because she was like my trustee in my childhood, like she was my trusted person, her betrayal would hurt more. So yeah, I had to work through a lot of mother wounds through a lot of sister wounds, through the witch wound. Like there are really a lot of things that we need to work through. Money trauma, generational trauma, ancestral trauma. There's literally so much potential that we carry because we are traumatized. Because why are we traumatized? Like, why do we experience trauma? Why do we have to experience trauma? And I really do think that we are souls. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we come here to experience darkness. Like, that is one of the points of coming here and reincarnating here, because nothing would, like, what would happen if we come here as souls and everything is great? Then there's no way for expansion, there's no way for growth. And I think that's the whole point of souls coming on earth, is expansion, is growth. And for that to happen, we first have to experience that which we are not, aka trauma and darkness, because we are beings of light. And so I do really think we have to experience the contrast in our childhood and then heal it to find the light by ourselves. I think that's also why we forget that we're spiritual beings, because obviously if we knew all of that already and come here, there's again no point in doing anything. And so that's the kind of bigger picture that I believe in and that I feel really truly resonates in my heart, and through the experience that I've lived really deeply resonates that I think that is the case. And I've done a lot of deep dive into spirituality in NDEs, in, oh my god, so much things. Anyway, and so yeah, if you want to grab the guide, don't forget to comment down below, free guide. And also this is a series. I will do many more videos on this topic. So if you're interested in that, subscribe. And thank you so much for listening. I'm sending you so much love, and I see you in the next one.